So we were gonna do another movie, but then I saw this film from 1997. I had to press pause because it was so enrapturing, so good, so gory and cheaply made that I had to listen. If your movie has Latinos and a lot of cocaine, you're getting on the squad. So the
Um,
movie is Perdita Durango. It's directed by de la Iglesias. Oh my God, Alex, that's not how we use that. Just kidding, Alex. You're good. It stars, like I said, Rosie Perez. It also stars some other people, and we're just gonna jump into it, and then we'll get to who these people are as we reach them, because the cast is crazy. Just give a rough.
a bank robber slash cartel agent slash voodoo priest meets a woman, goes on a crime spree with him. I don't know, it's such a weirdly tongue in cheek movie. I mean, it's like it's almost weird how much of it is played for laughs.
Yeah, well, and like, but yeah, but I just want to put that trigger warning in front of it. If you guys don't like that kind of stuff, skip this one because it is hardcore.
Yeah.
Here's why I wanted to watch, because I put this movie on. It was on my Shutter. It's like on every free service. It's on Tubi. It's on Shutter. It's on like AMC Plus. So so like I just had it there because it had Rosie Perez. I didn't realize who the other actor in this movie was from the poster because he looks so different.
Yeah.
And so like I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna watch it because it's been a rough week and I'm just watching nonstop movies. So my brain don't have to work. And I started watching this movie and I was like, oh my god, what is this? It's so weird and like it's so like out there and I don't even know who the audience for this would be. And
Yeah,
so I was like, let's talk
it's
about it.
it's so strange. Yeah, it's because I almost thought it would be like kind of a hardcore serious horror, and it's almost like a grindhouse, but not quite because it's not. It kind of like shies away from that. It's like it kind of like pulls back like more than you'd expect. Like it's gory, but in like a very like non-serious way.
Well, the way I would describe it is this is kind of what I wanted out of Natural Born Killers, where
Yeah.
like the problem with Natural Born Killers is I just don't find the two main characters likable in any way. And so it makes me like, I mean, obviously you're not supposed to root for them, but it makes me not even want to get invested in their story because I'm literally just waiting for them to die. Where in this one, even though these guys are objectively terrible, they like have enough personality and also because they're Latinos that you want them to maybe not survive, but maybe see the error of their ways and go to jail or something. But anyway, so the movie starts. She's like talking to people. She just crossed the border and she runs into this bank robber played by Javier Bardem.
We should say his haircut. I mean, I know people say he has a crazy haircut in No Country for Old Men. This is
Oh, he
like the
wins.
most. It's like you remember that episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns says the baseball team and keeps telling the guy to
Yeah,
get
he
rid of
does
his
look like that.
sideburns and he's shaving parts of his head. It's like that.
Well, it's like a lot of indigenous tribes from Mexico have this haircut.
Oh,
And
really?
that's why it's cool. Yeah, Pablo had this haircut too. Hair is 100, like he has long hair, but he has the sides tapered off.
It's like a
So
mullet, kind of.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a mullet kind of, because like the sides, it's like a Mexican mullet, really. Because like the top, if you didn't see the back of his head, he would just look like a regular, like the classic Mexican fade. But then you notice that he has long hair in the back and also sometimes in the front. So
And he has
yeah,
like
and
the
then
pencil thin mustache and soul patch too. Yeah.
yeah, and the first scene is him like robbing a bank and immediately screwing over his partner for no real reason. He has to pay off a loan shark. And so he like throws his partner to the ground and just takes off without him. And then he runs into Darango and he's just like, "Oh, come with me and we can kind of hang out." And
It's what's interesting is okay. First, he robs the bank, and then he is also hired by like a crime boss.
In 48 hours, a truck will arrive. A refrigerated semi-trailer truck loaded with human embryos for the cosmetic industries.
But like completely unrelated to that, he just meets this woman and is like, "Hey, do you want to murder some people? A ritual sacrifice?"
She likes to murder people as well, and they keep like cutting back to her like dad killed her whole family and raped them, and then she killed her dad, but not before he killed everyone in his
No,
family.
he killed himself in front of her.
He killed him, yeah, because he said you could have stopped this. That's right. He killed
Yeah.
himself in front of her, and they live like in a trailer park. So that's kind of why she's gone off the deep end. And so they like yeah. So the rest of the movie is essentially a car, like it's like across a road trip as they try to get this truck, this fetus. Okay, so like they're trying to get this fetus, and it's basically just them trying to get paid. But very quickly, the guy, what's this guy's name? Oh, Romero
Romeo,
is how
yeah.
they call him. No, they call him Romero. And he's just like, oh, let's kidnap a woman or let's kidnap a white person and then eat them.
Yeah, he
No,
believes in
she
like
comes up with the
Santeria
plan.
like rituals, but he
Yeah.
also it's like he believes it's true, and then as the movie goes on, you kind of realize that like his belief is making it true in a weird way.
Yeah.
Like
He,
it's like random things are happening, but then by the end of the movie, you're like, oh, he actually kind of like alluded to all of this happening as it did.
no, everything about him is, and he says it multiple times that he is. He just likes also cocaine. Those two things are mutually exclusive. So yeah, so then she's like, "Oh, let's kidnap a white person and then we can eat him as part of the ritual." Like for no reason. She's just like, it'd be cool if we ate some white kid. So they kidnap this college kid who's on a date with this girl that he's like shy around. And the funny thing is that there's like this is like explains the movie. There's like a 5 minute scene of the girl whose name Estelle and her parents talking to the kid Dwayne, and it's just like a really weird, uncomfortable scene where the dad's like, "Oh, that's where you're taking her, huh? That's where kids go today to have sex." And it's like, what the fuck is this? It's just such an uncomfortable
Yeah.
scene. And then like when I was watching it, I was like, "Oh, is this a cop?" Apparently, I just think everyone's a cop. I'm like, "Is this a cop that's gonna chase them?" I was like, "Oh no, this is a couple that's gonna immediately get kidnapped."
Yeah, although it's almost like it's very like funny because when they kidnap them, the guy's immediately like, "Look, I'm sorry for what we've done to your people." It's just such a like funny like liberal guilt trying to like plead his way out of being kidnapped by like a cannibal murderer, you know?
Yeah, there is like this weird underlying because the kids are obviously well off, and the criminals are obviously like super poor and really weird. Also, the Wikipedia says this is an action crime horror film. It's like, is that really action? I guess it
There
is kind of
there's a
action.
couple shootouts, yeah. It's
Um,
because randomly, and this is one of those things where it just happens, is that suddenly Rosie Perez is leaving a store, and then James Gandolfini is behind her, and it's like, oh, he's a D agent who's been tailing them this whole time.
yeah, James Gandolfini is in this. He's playing a DA agent, and also for some reason he's not doing his Jersey accent, which
He
is the
will.
weirdest.
It's his normal voice. The accent on The Sopranos is him doing an accent.
No, that's what all Italians sound like. I think that if you saw any movie before The Sopranos, James Gandolfini was going to use like a weird American accent, and also he was always going to have a mustache. Like,
Like, kind of looks like a cop. I mean, most cops kind of
he,
look
he
like
does.
mobsters, so you know,
Yeah, like a big guy
like
who
red
like is
faced and clearly
who's
unhealthy.
not big because necessarily because he's fat, but he's big because he's just built like a bigger person.
Kind of scary, yeah.
So he's trailing them, and then he's doing the worst imaginable job.
Well, because he gets hit by a car while trying to follow her, and it like fucks him up pretty
There's
bad.
so many people who get hit by a car in this
And
movie.
that's what I'm saying. I think it's like the power of their belief is what's causing these random like things to stop people trying to stop them. You know, that's what I took
Yeah.
from it.
Just to show you how this movie is, like, okay, so at one point they just like they're in this town, and you find out that James Gandolfini and the girl Estelle's dad are on the hunt for him, and then like a bunch of stuff happens. The dad gets separated, and then he's like on the phone. He's like talking to the wife. He's like, I don't know, she could be anywhere in this whole country. So they like, so then he's like, I don't know where she is, and then he sees Estelle get out of the car like across the street. And he's like, oh my god, there she is. And so he like hangs up the phone, and he's like, Estelle. And he runs across the street, and he immediately gets hit by a car and murdered.
Yeah, and then they're like watching like his body being taken, not like just like the kids, but like the
The
Durango and
couple.
Romeo,
Yeah.
and he's like, oh, death can come at any time, and they just like shrug it. It's like, okay, now I'm led to believe like this is being played for laughs.
Baby.
It's such a dark comedy at times, but I think
And
that's where it shines, you know.
so then, like, yeah, so then all that happens. They kind of fall in love, and then they're just like kind of hanging out. Again, this has nothing to do with the fetus. The
Right, like
fetus. This
the
is just them
crime is
hanging out.
incidental. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it has the plot line of American or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where like the last 10 minutes are relevant and everything else isn't. But like, so they're hanging out, and then they're like, okay, so now we're gonna kill them. We're gonna sacrifice one of them, or we're gonna sacrifice them, and they're like, oh, we're gonna sacrifice one of you. You can pick. And so they like start like choosing, and then they vote, and obviously it's a tie,
Right,
which was a funny scene that they're like both tied, and they're like, what do we do now? And then their friend comes in, who's also a Santeria, and he's just like, girl. He says this white girl, and they're like,
right.
sorry, he voted. And so they like take the white girl, and then Javier Bardem, he like does like so much cocaine that his eyes turn white, and he's doing like this zombie trance, and he's like clearly talking to the devil, and it was like such a cool scene because up until this point, there hadn't been like, I mean, Rosie Perez like had dreams and stuff, and there had been some kind of mystical stuff, but not really where like Javier Bardem is clearly like possessed by some kind of cocaine demon. That's kind of what, and then like Rosie Perez has that dream where she's like the jaguar comes up to her,
Right, yeah.
and she keeps having these dreams. Like in her dream, the dad like because she keeps reliving the dad killing himself, but every time she has it, the dad talks to her more and more. And so there is like little things that are just like, okay, this is kind of weird. But once they do that cocaine dance, that's
Yeah,
it.
it goes all in, yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, and then like at this point, Javier Bardem he's like covered in blood as he's doing it, and so like they start dancing, and she starts dancing, and she has like the gun in her hand because she's turned on by this, and it's like I don't know, it's just it. It's as because I know when we were reviewing Texas Chainsaw Massacre, we said that like nothing will ever come close to that dinner scene. But this movie gets as close as you're ever gonna get to it. Like with the how like weird and chaotic it feels. Like a legit, if they had killed them both in that sequence and like the cops came and rescued the kids, I would have been like, oh yeah, that would be how this would end. But instead what happens is his partner from the beginning shows up and knocks out Rosie Perez, and then they just start shooting everyone and setting it on fire and setting the whole place on fire. And so like, and then like Durango, no, not Durango, Romero is like, he like gets in a fight and he's like, because he's still like covered in blood and kind of naked. So he doesn't really know what's going on, and like they're like the whole place is on fire. I legit thought he was gonna die in that sequence because the cops are outside, the guys who wanted to kill him are inside, and then the whole thing is on fire.
Yeah, although they
This is
actually do
not
it.
this is not the ending of the movie, by the way, guys. This is like the middle part.
This is like 45 minutes in. The cops are watching. This is actually weird, realistic because they're like, oh no, we don't have jurisdiction here, so they just watch all these people being murdered, and it's like, yeah, real cops do that for sure. Like,
Yeah.
it's like we can't arrest them here. Like it wouldn't, like the paperwork wouldn't work out, so we're just gonna like let them just mow people down, you know.
So then they escape and they somehow get the kids to come with them. Well, Dwayne wants to go with Durango, and then I feel like Estelle like just didn't have another option. It was between this and being murdered, and so she goes with them again.
That is true. And there is a scene where he goes just with the white girl to go pay off his debts later, and she's like
Okay,
intensely jealous.
well that's okay. Yes, she does. He does do that, but he does that because once again he owes the loan shark money, and so his goal is to sell the girl.
Well, only as a trick, right? It's a trick
Yeah,
though. It's to get them alone to be like, I'm going to sell her, and then he kills them.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then he like kills them.
and then,
Um,
which is funny because at that, like, he kills the guy horribly by like smashing a broken bottle into his face over and over, And then he stands up. He's like, "All right, act natural." And then they're both covered in blood. And then they immediately walk out on the dance floor, and he starts cocaine dancing even more like wildly than before.
Like even if you didn't even come out of that thing covered in blood, I'd be like, oh, that guy has done a lot of cocaine and he's killed someone.
Yeah,
And so, like, yeah, it's just like this weird tone where it's kind of what so many other directors and filmmakers want to hit, but it's so hard to hit it right. Like Quentin Tarantino can hit it right every single time.
this is approaching that Tarantino thing. I would say it doesn't quite hit that mark, but it gets close.
I think like it's so funny because like an hour and 45 minutes of this movie is just them like fucking around doing nothing that's imperative to a plot. And then the last like 20 minutes is just like, oh yeah, we have a plot that we should wrap up.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, and the first 30 minutes is very like, oh, you just think this is going to just be random, like crazy violence, but it does weirdly. You're like, oh, okay, it did actually kind of like come back around and like wrap up in like a way like that is
Yeah.
pretty satisfying.
But that's another thing that I really liked about it is that like you see, I mean, it's been a problem forever, and the best example is clearly the Joker and Harley Quinn, where it's like people shit on Jared Leto, but like that's the only type of Joker who could have a girlfriend. Like I don't see Heath Ledger's Joker or like the other guy, the bad one, having a girlfriend. Like I can see the gangster Joker, like Jack Nicholson and Jared Leto, having a girlfriend because they're just kind of like weird gangsters. They're not really like unhinged members of society who they don't even fit into our class norms. Where so it's like hard to believe that like Heath Ledger's gonna date a girl in any way or like a guy or anyone. It just seems asexual.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And this is kind of one of those movies where it's like it was fully believable that he's all about like women,
Well,
which is
not just that he's about, but these two characters seem to really like each other.
right, right. But I'm saying it's like you would believe he'd be like drawn into a relationship, whereas with a lot of these like psychopath characters, it's like I don't think this guy is even thinks humans are people.
And so he's hypersexualized, but he kind of sees women as objects until he meets Durango, and then he sees her as an equal, and he always treats her as one, even up until the end. That's why he doesn't want her to die because he
Right.
actually cares about her. And I think like even in Natural Born Killers, I never really bought it. I don't even know what the dynamic in House of a Thousand Corpses is or why they're always together. Like you'd think they'd go off because they don't even seem to like each other. They're always yelling. And so it's like it's always hard to believe that. But these I believe that they liked each other enough to like keep going even as things got hairier and hairier. And so I think that that's kind of what put it over the top for me.
So
Perdita Durango from 1997, starring Rosie Perez, Javier Bardem. I love to showcase Mexican and Latino horror. We've done a lot. What have we done? We've done this one. We've done Dust Till Dawn. We did Raising Victor Vargas. We've done some George A. Romero films, who's Cuban, in case you guys forgot. Check out my movies. Check out a deep dive this week. Find out what movie I'm talking about that's like Event Horizon. I think I already said it's Ghost Ship. It's Ghost Ship. The point of the movie is not for you to figure out what movie I'm talking about. It's to watch a fun 10-minute video. So yeah, go check that out. Check out this cool one and check out this movie. Tell us if you like it, if you've seen it. And we'll see you guys next time on The
was I
Bomb
supposed?
Squad.
Oh, I was like, was I supposed to say the Bomb Squad? The B Squad, the B Boys.